Hey y'all, it's nonsense here, but I'm not alone today. We got friends with us today. Introducing Fucktessa and Bluntessa.
It sounds so
Hello,
weird when
all.
you say it out loud. It's all good. And really, I feel like our names are truly, truly
Yeah,
fitting. Like Bluntessa is blunt as shit. She's not going to sugarcoat it for you.
nope.
You can ask my children. They'll even tell you. I do not sugarcoat. This is me. This is who I am, and I'm going to tell you how it is.
I'm gonna let you guys do most of the talking on this one because they're so used to hearing me. I mean, I will interject and stuff, but I really think it's important for people to see that there's a lot more of us out here that are concerned about the facts in the case.
Okay.
And I think people need to know too, like, we're not about blocking anybody. We are open for conversation to anybody. Nobody's going to get blocked for asking questions, open dialogue. Like, why cut off a part of open conversation? But if you're going to be stating things as facts, you have to have the facts and the proof to back that up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're all really big on, if it's a theory or it's an opinion or I think this may have, been said or done, we will absolutely state that versus no, this happened. Oh,
Right.
well, where's your proof of it? Oh, I don't have any, but just believe me, it happened.
Right. Yeah.
Receipts. Show them receipts.
That's right. So I guess I can kind of start off. Just I know we've heard a lot, and we've had a lot of people that have they've shown that have sent in different video clips of people saying, that we're a part of the attack on the family.
Oh,
and a part of the attack on we're helping it we're so focused on one thing that we just can't move on to focus on what this is really about. So for
Mhm.
myself, I'm speaking for myself, this is 1000% about Marvon McRae.
Yep.
This has absolutely nothing to do. I don't care about a KJ, a MGL, a J for all, a uni, anybody else. None of them matter to me. It matters about Marvon.
Let me be honest.
Oh, good.
She doesn't even, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but we don't know each other. Like, this is three random people who met because they are focused on facts in this case. She's not even concerned about me. Nonsense.
Yeah.
Granted, we have grown, to really have a lot of similar, like, common things that we're finding, but it's not about creators at all. Like, she's completely independent on her own, not speaking for anybody but her. But a lot of us feel the same way.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to establish that, like, you guys have became very, very valuable sources of reliable information. But that was independent. You guys were doing your own independent stuff, and then we compiled together.
Yeah, we did not know each other before the end of July.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all. And what brought us together was our questions and seeing each other in comments and seeing some of your videos that you were doing on Facebook. That kind of ended up bringing us together. And even now, we don't always agree on the same exact thing. Like, I think that's one of the great things is, there's times where one of us will come in and say, what about this? Like, this doesn't make sense. We're missing this hole here. I think it's this. And then somebody else say, no, it can't be that because of blah, blah, blah. Here's the receipt for it. And we go back and forth all the time trying to, that's how we do end up figuring out where a lot of the lies and misinformation, do come from is because, one of us will say, no, wait a second. That's not what they said 2 days ago. Let me go grab you that clip.
Right.
It's good to surround yourself with people from different backgrounds and who have a different viewpoint of things, because that's how you're going to really get down to the nitty gritty of it all. Is everybody has a different viewpoint of it. We can all come together, discuss it, and come to a conclusion. Whether or not we agree on the conclusion, well, it doesn't matter, because we are here for Vaughn, and that is all we're trying to do is just get to the bottom of this for Vaughn and bring his name out and his awareness and bring dignity to his name.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm going to
And
be shady for a second. So pull out all your palm trees. So Bluntassi, you mean we're not supposed to just be an echo chamber saying the same exact thing as each other all the time? Rhetorical question.
Chico. Speaking on that, though, too, saying that Marvin deserves dignity, I think we should clarify a little bit there, too, because we all came in this at different angles, trying to seek some sort of justice for Marvin. And when I say justice for Marvin, to us, that is that Marvin's story gets told with truth and facts, and that his story is told accurately for him. Like
Yeah.
that this is his story. So why are we twisting and turning his story? But a huge piece of this story involves mental health. And all of
Yes.
us have some sort of connection to something with mental health. Most people do, whether they admit it or not. They do. And
Hmm.
that is a driving force for a lot of this story because people relate to Marvin, they relate to Dre, they relate to family members, they relate to a piece of this story. But that mental health connection is huge.
And for a lot of people, and Bluntassi, you may want to, I don't know if you want to jump in, but for a lot of people, if you don't have that experience in your life or the knowledge, and for the lack of a better word, if you're ignorant when it comes to mental health issues, then you can absolutely get lost in the sauce and see things that aren't what they are. There are
Oh,
numerous people.
absolutely.
I don't know who shared it. Is somebody on a page? Don't be like, oh my gosh, she said it's that creator. She must love her or him. No, I just seen somebody had shared on a page at one point in time. They were talking about Chester from Lincoln Park and how the night before he had unalived himself, that he did like he acted like he did everything with his family and took care of his kids that night and had dinner and watched a movie or something like that, right? Like it was a normal night for his family, and his family was in shock that that was, then what happened. And I have a friend who I had spoke to at one point in time who was in a very dark place, and she said it's not about not loving someone. It has nothing to do with how much you love someone. It has everything to do with being exhausted, wanting peace and wanting those inner demons that people are fighting, they want that to end. And they see that as the only way. And that is the saddest part about this story because it is taken. I can't even imagine. I have a husband for the record, 25 years now, but I couldn't imagine walking out of my house and finding something like that. I couldn't imagine having to tell my children something like that. I couldn't imagine then going on the internet and fighting with all of these people constantly and being, what I consider as bashed, in my opinion. I couldn't imagine being in that place. And so while I constantly hear on every video I've been watching lately over the last 2 months now, every video is, you need to consider what so and so is going through. Well, while you consider what one side of this story is going through, I would absolutely implore you to think of what all sides have gone through or are currently going through.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like the
Absolutely.
focus at this point should not be on legal issues, should not be on um, did someone do it? Did he love that person enough? It shouldn't be on, what's going on with the kids. None of that is relevant. It should be on how does this entire family heal?
Right.
How do they
Absolutely.
move on and bridge a gap so that a family can be a family? And truth be told, how the hell do you stop the internet shenanigans for clicks and views so
And,
that this family can heal?
This never should have been brought to social media. This is not a social media discussion or anything like that. This is a family dispute. They need to work it out. They need to sit down and find common ground and just find peace and support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this extra hoopla and everything in the background is not helping anybody. These creators or content creators, YouTubers, and everything else, they are adding fuel to a fire. And
The
it's
Absolutely.
mom,
messing with people's lives. And this is going to be something that affects them their entire lives. When these creators move on to the next story, guess what? This family, all of them, both sides, everyone involved is still going to be dealing with this tragedy.
Yep. And they're all going to be left to pick up the shattered pieces that people continue to take a hammer to make even smaller and make it even harder to pick them up and fix it.
Absolutely.
can I just mention one thing about this with the clicks and views
Yeah.
and what the family is going to have to see for the rest of their lives? The clickbait photos. The clickbait photos and the titles of the videos are absolutely disgusting. You're using children and a man in a coma for views and clicks.
Children that have access to the internet, children who are going to have to go to school with other children, they're going to go and they're going to do activities, sports, and whatnot. And guess what? People are going to see them and they're going to recognize them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yes, I question this all the time of is what I'm doing fueling the fire? Because at times it feels like it's endless and it doesn't feel like there's any hope of
Mhm.
getting anything accomplished. I'll be 100% honest with you. You guys know that. There's times when this just feels completely hopeless that we're getting nowhere. But at the end of the day, this is about Marvon and truth for Marvon. And as long as people continue to lie and smear Marvon's name, if they would just stop and listen instead of that echo chamber and understand that nobody started this by trying to go after Letitia. Actually, we started this. Well, I was concerned about Letitia. I thought other people were using Letitia as a pawn. That was my initial come at this. Like that's where the angle I was coming. And it was as things started to unfold. And I think you guys have had similar experiences too, where you initially thought one way, and as things have came around, you're like, wait, but the facts say this. It's been a revolving mess. Evolving,
I'll
not
say this.
revolving.
I wholeheartedly 100% support the McCrae family, Vaughn and Dre and Bella and Boo and Raza for sure. That doesn't mean that I don't support his extended family or that I don't understand or can't relate to the suffering that they felt like they were going through in the very beginning. So
Hmm.
I'm not discounting that. There has not been any video we recorded or been sent. There's not a screenshot that has been put out that didn't have thought behind it, or it didn't, it wasn't, there's I know I'm going to speak for myself. I know I get a lot of screenshots and I get a lot of people saying, "Hey, did you see this?" But if it's something that can't be backed up, or if it's something that's not really going to help put out the
Yeah.
truth, it'll stay right there in the inbox where it belongs. There is a
Hmm.
lot I don't agree with. My personal belief on refunds, because I'll speak for that, is if I donate, I do not ask for a refund. However, I understand how people feel that they were misguided, they were misinformed, and they were not being told the truth from the very beginning. And I understand why they have gone through the routes that they're going through to have it investigated or do whatever they're trying to do. I understand why there are numerous people who I know, nonsense, you could probably speak more on it than I can, but for me personally, I know there are numerous people that are saying, I did not get a refund. They show us their proof. We confirmed that their proof is sent to the right Cash App. However, that can't actually actually be released, because as soon as it gets released, it's going to get passed on to somebody else who may pass it on to somebody else. I don't know how, but it ends up in the wrong hands. And all of a sudden, this person's family, lives, kids, jobs, everything is on fire. And
Judy,
they've been doxxed.
Judy, that happened to Judy. That's exactly what
Judy
happened
is
to
a
Judy.
perfect example of it. Now, let me clarify. Yes, Judy ended up saying this harassment is enough. She spoke to
Right.
Letitia. She's told all of us. She spoke to in her posts and in her comments. She spoke to Letitia. She felt like the proof that she was sent was sufficient for her to know that she didn't want to know anything else about a refund.
Right.
Good for her. But look at what she had to go through. And they still insisted that she back down and not get her money back.
But they also were not even informed that she had a conversation with Letitia. That's a huge problem in this whole thing to begin with, is that there is broken communication in every single place within this. So you have Letitia and Molly who have let's just use this as an example, for instance. Molly and Letitia have a direct line of communication. Letitia also talks to Gigi. She also talks to Goose. She also talks to Justin. It's like plain telephone.
Absolutely.
But when one tells the story the next time, they add a little bit more fluff to it. And then by the time it gets passed around, it's not the accurate story, if it even gets passed around in the first place, because there's certain things that they're making sure are communicated, but then there's others that they're making sure are not. And it's been very interesting to see that go down too.
So I know I think you have a video coming out about this. So hopefully that video is already out by now when this gets released. But I know I'm going to segue into misinformation and blatant lies. So I know the last couple of days we have heard, I'm going to show you, there's the legal documents. And I know we even seen a clip where the legal document was actually read out on live. So the problem with that is, and again, you can go back and watch all the videos. This stuff is not something that like we're making up. There are screenshots after screenshots after screen recordings to prove it over and over and over again. But the document that you're seeing being flashed at the screen, not shown. Now, mind you, I find it quite interesting that a superior court document gets flashed at the screen to prove itself. However, when when somebody gets doxxed, their picture is left right in front of the screen for at least 3.5 minutes. That is intentional. So to me, if you're going to show some documents, then show some documents. You're blatantly lying to people.
Show it or shut the fuck up, basically.
I know that's right.
What we're saying.
I know that's right. You said it better than I could.
Show it or shut the fuck up. Sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up. You have no intentions on showing it, so stop doing the little games. But speaking on that, Blantessa, do you want to explain what is kind of weird about that paperwork?
Well, there's a lot that's weird with that paperwork.
I knew you were going to say that.
One, there's no case number. There's no file date. We can go and search up public records, and you're not going to find anything with anyone's name, whether it's Vaughn's name, Dre's name, Letitia's name. There's nothing in there. Nothing to be found. Also, the way that the document is worded, the contact with, that's not something that's typically a document that would be filed with the court. That would need to be filed with additional paperwork, as if the case was already started, because there's a chain of paperwork that needs to be filed. And within that chain, that piece of paper could be filed, but it cannot be filed on its own. That is not a court document on its own. That's something that would be supplemental, but there is no case. So that supplemental piece of paper is just that. It's a piece of paper.
But
So
even if, oh, sorry,
it's
you want to
okay.
go?
So
Go
I'm
ahead,
I'm
you go.
I'm curious. So if capital I, capital F, if Letitia had a lawyer and her lawyer contacted an alleged lawyer that Dre had, okay, and they made a legal written agreement to allow for Letitia to continue having constant visitation rights to be able to see Vaughn, right? What would happen if now Dre is saying, I'm not going to answer the phone anymore? Well, first, have you ever heard of a lawyer who doesn't answer the phone because the other lawyer is calling?
Absolutely not. There's a professional courtesy. There's a courtesy and professionalism, and you're not going to not answer the call of another
Speaking of which,
professional.
you also are not going to bill for 30 or 300 phone calls that don't make it to the attorney, first of all. And secondly, that is not billable hours, and that is unethical and could get somebody potentially disbarred if they were
Oh,
to
absolutely.
bill for excessive phone calls, like is being claimed too. Just a side note.
Now, what happens? We all have heard the name numerous times over the last couple of days. So, what happens if Miss Diaz is a smaller office? And so it's just her and a receptionist, and they're trying to make it work out. And so these 300 calls have really bombarded them.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
Can they bill then?
Absolutely not.
No.
That's not a direct client to attorney contact. So, no.
And Blantessa is right. There has to be an established attorney and client relationship.
Okay,
And
Blendis,
there's no way.
here's my second question on it. So now we've already established just the professional courtesy. A lawyer would not answer the phone. But then on the second end of things, if the if if there is a court ordered, right, because that's what they stated, there is a court ordered visitation in the superior court. That's what they claim. But if there was one, then what would happen if Dre ended up saying, "Oh no, I don't want to I don't want her to see him anymore. It's all good. Like no, I refuse."
Well, we have to establish, is this a court order or is this a legal binding agreement? Because those are two different things. People sign legal binding agreements every day, and it's basically just a contract that says, if you don't do this, I can do this. Whereas a court order is going to be handed down by the court, and you are breaking what the court has stated you must do. So that brings extra penalties. Now, if it was a legal binding agreement, then her attorney, Letitia's attorney, would need to take the steps to file it with court and to use it against Dre as a contempt of court or a contempt.
Now, when you if and when they file it, would you be able to see that on the public website?
Yes.
Okay.
And I need to actually correct myself because it's contempt of court when it is a court order. If it is a legal binding agreement, then it's just a contract between you and someone else, and whatever stipulated within that contract is what can be done if you don't follow through.
There's usually a clause written in the agreement
there's
for recourse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And the document that we've all seen at this point that's been flashed at the screen, but thankfully we have some wonderful people who can screenshot it and make it look better. Does that I've only seen in the pictures that I've seen, it's just one little paragraph that talks about the visitation, which is what we've heard people have been reading online. But I have never seen anything below that that talked about the stipulations. So if there's nothing below that, would that mean that legally that was an agreement, or was that a court order, or was that just paperwork you drew up and hoped that you were going to have to do something?
That honestly looks like a document that was just downloaded off the internet and created, and it's never been filed. There is no file number, there's no stamp on it, there's nothing showing that it has ever made its way to a court building.
right there, stamping it as soon as you file. And this is something people are missing too, because people have asked, well, if it was thrown out of court, it wouldn't have a case number and blah, blah, blah. If it was filed, if you go to the courthouse and say, I want to file this, you pay for it, whatever you're filing, whatever their fee is. The first thing they do is stamp it, the very first thing, and then they assign it a case number. So that would have a big stamp on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, it would. And then it doesn't matter if
and
it's
not
a
only would it have
concealed case.
not only would it have a big stamp on it, but the second that it's stamped, it goes to the clerk of court, who then within, I believe it's a 24-hour period, logs that into the system. And it's the document itself may not be visible, but the fact that it was filed would be visible. You could see
Okay.
who filed it. You may not be able to see what is filed, but you could see. You might not be able to see the details of the filing, but you could see the file itself.
So it could be
The
basically,
document.
no matter what though, even if the stuff in the file is private or they're like completely keeping it hush hush and sealed up, like let's say it's a sealed case, there is still information that is put on the service of or on the website in their system that says the case number and the two parties, if I'm correct. From
Absolutely.
what they have told me, anything that gets filed in court is given a number and is registered in their system. It depends on what's put in the file and how they do all the different individual cases, but everything is assigned a number and uploaded.
Absolutely.
We're gonna move on to another legal thing for Blundtessa because I'm not the legalese. We send you all the legal stuff and say, what does this mean? And I can't read it. That's not my strong suit.
And I'm
Um,
so tongue-tied today. I am sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. I think you're doing good. You're making it make sense. I mean, people have
Lots
a
of
lot of
edit.
questions and they don't understand what's going on fully. I know a lot of times I've seen in the comments as we're going through the comments on different posts and videos that you put out nonsense, we see all the time where people are like, help make this make sense. Like, how does this tie into it? I think maybe we can ask the audience at some point in time if maybe just a video of a recap of what started and what happened, just sticking with facts that we have receipts for along the way. Maybe that may be helpful to people to understand. Sometimes we put out a video screenshots and they're like, okay, I see what the screenshot says, but how does this weigh into this whole situation?
We're 17 weeks in, everybody, just so everybody knows. Today, at the time of filming this, we are 17 weeks in. Just imagine the amount of information that has been produced from all the various ends by this. It
Absolutely.
is so much.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, let's go through the steps of how filing works.
I was also going to ask you to talk about visitation as well. That's actually what I was going to ask you about, was the visitation stuff that you had that you were able to find in the Arizona legal code stuff.
Let's first go through the filing process. So I have an attorney. I need a document filed. I go to that attorney. The attorney draws it up. Then the attorney's going to take it to court. They're going to file it with the clerk of court. The clerk of court is then going to give me a court date, or the attorney a court date. The clerk of court will then, clerk of records will then record that into the system, and a docket will be created. That docket is public. So even if we can't see what was filed, we can see the names on the docket. We would know if there was anything happening in court if the necessary paperwork had been filed. To date, there has been nothing on any dockets.
Sounds pretty solid to me. Sounds like facts to me.
Yeah.
With receipts.
Those are straight facts.
That's
Can't
right.
really argue with it.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about your research with the Arizona laws for visitation and, who's allowed to see somebody in the hospital or not? I know there was a lot of, which nonsense, we're not going to touch on the restraining order right this second, but, oh, excuse
Don't
me.
even get me started there.
I know.
I
We'll
have
come
so
back
much
to it.
to
I
say.
know. But can we talk a little bit about who is prevented from visiting somebody when they're in the hospital, Blantessa?
Pretty much across the board, nobody can be refused a visit if that facility receives federal money. There is a federal mandate, and this is for all facilities that accept Medi-Cal, Medicaid, Medicare across the board. It doesn't matter if the patient has that type of insurance or not. Across the board, they have to follow the same policy, which is the hospital cannot turn away a visit, and the POA does not give the person that's holding the POA, it does not give them the right to turn away a visitor either. This is why Senior was able to visit. And this is why the nurse stated, if you watch the full video, not the chopped and screwed version of the video with Dre asking them to remove Senior, if you watch the whole thing, the nurse says, yes, we understand you have a POA, but you don't have the right to to say who and who does not visit. This is because of a federal law. It has nothing to do with it being a VA hospital. It has nothing to do with anything other than there's a federal mandate, and all facilities accepting federal funding has to follow that. Now, as far as I've seen, every facility that Vaughn has supposedly been in does accept federal funds. So they would not turn away anyone, whether it be Letitia, myself, or anybody walking in there to see Vaughn. Nobody would be turned away. The only way that you would be turned away is if there was a safety and health issue, whether that be like COVID, or say that there was a restraining order in place, patient to visitor, not another visitor to visitor. It has to be patient to visitor with the restraining order. So basically, anybody could walk in there, just like the nurse says on that full video.
I'm curious, were you able to locate any restraining orders that had been filed?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Not a
Also,
single one.
I knew you were going to come to this. You're so passionate about this misinformation and straight lies that were put out that I know how you feel. I know.
I mean, and even if there was a restraining order out there, that restraining order would be Dre to Letitia. It would not be Vaughn to Letitia. Dre does not have she wouldn't be able to walk into a courtroom and ask for a restraining order for him. Her POA does have restrictions to it.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is it possible that she filed one, let's just say, because this is their theory right now that they've put out there as their misinformation, but she filed one, it's just she didn't have the stuff that the courts needed to prove it, so it went away?
Absolutely not, because the moment you file, you must have the proof in hand. There is no, I'll get back to you later with that.
Also, is there a way to file like a temporary restraining order at a hospital, like within the hospital administration?
No, hospitals are not going to want to get in the middle of that. That's not their scope of practice. They don't want anything to do with it. They will step in if they see that there's a health and safety issue for a patient and they feel that a visitor shouldn't be there. Then the hospital may take steps, but they would still have to go to a court and ask for a restraining order. And again, nothing has been filed by anyone involved in this case that we can see.
Can you talk a little bit about what the hospital ethics committee is or does? Because I don't know much about that either.
Ethics committees are usually brought together for specific cases. If they feel that a patient, I'm going to use my son was in the hospital many years ago. He was in an accident. He was in ICU and he was in a coma. There was another patient that was next to him that unfortunately the family was not very active in his care and was actually using the fact that the child was there. They were accepting donations and they were having their rent paid, and it was an awful situation. But there was no brain function on that child. So they created an ethics committee. Now they pick specialists that have to do with that patient's care, that patient's prognosis and diagnosis. It's very specific. And they discuss what steps they need to take. In some cases, they decide that they take responsibility of that patient away from the family or the POA holder or whoever is in charge of that person's care as a family member or friend or whatever. The ethics committee will say, you are not doing what is correct for this patient. We're now going to court. We're taking away whatever right you have. We now have the rights, and we are going to be the decision makers for their medical necessities.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for answering that. So that means if a ethics committee denied your request 2 times, there probably isn't a danger or concern, safety or health wise, for that patient currently.
Absolutely not. And everyone in that hospital is mandated reporter. So I know I heard a rumor somewhere that a nurse supposedly told Senior that he needs to contact APS and this and that. But the thing is, that nurse is a mandated reporter. So did that nurse contact APS? Did anyone in the hospital contact APS? Because if not, then they're in violation.
So the nurse who was texting them and letting them know that Vaughn had been moved, is that something that normally happens in hospitals?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is that
That's
could
a huge
actually
no-no.
that's a huge no-no. I would definitely say that could be borderline HIPAA violation there. Amongst
You're
other
gonna get
things.
shit canned if
Yeah,
anybody
oh
finds out.
definitely. And you're in a VA hospital? Oh my. No.
Yeah, like
Right,
this,
right, because she was from the VA.
that's a whole bunch of. But if she was not acting in capacity, because we don't know for sure that she is a nurse. It's what's said in the text message, but again, we have to kind of
I mean, she could
weed
have been
through
one
a
of the
bunch of
little
stuff.
volunteers at the
Yeah, it
info
could have been.
table, possibly.
It could have been. So we don't know exactly her capacity, but if she's an employee of the hospital and giving information about a patient that's in their care, that's a big breach of all sorts of regulations and rules.
Okay.
They all
Even
are
if it is
under
the
contract.
maintenance person or the
Yeah.
janitor that gave that information, that's still a breach. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. They're an employee. Like you said, they're an employee of the hospital. They sign confidentiality paperwork. They agree to certain
Yep.
standards. And that shouldn't happen. And that person needs to be taken to task if that is in fact what they did.
Okay. All right.
It's a huge problem though. Like it is. That's why there's been so many concerning things too. Like if you look at this from a perspective of, okay, let's say she does have an attorney. Let's say she has spent $8,700 on said attorney. There's no court papers.
That's
She's been
Goofy
able
claim.
to see. Yeah, she's been able to see Marvon one time? One time for $8,700. That is $350 an hour is what they've quoted that she is paying this attorney. That's a
Excuse
little
me.
over 20. Is it about $25? Is
No,
that right?
wait. I would like to take it back a step because
Oh,
they said
okay.
it's $8,700 for the lawyer, $4,000 for her first trip that she went there that she did not see him, and $4,000 for the second trip is what they quoted. So it's
So
16,000. Actually, it's 17,000. 87. $17,200 is what she has paid so far to be able to see him for one time.
Exactly.
Why is
And
nobody asking the lawyer some questions?
yeah, isn't that a concern? Like if they're advocating, let's think of this from their perspective, because this is where I keep having a hard time. And I said this a lot in the video that will be released before this, the one that I'm going over what Goose said. Because you think about that, $350 an hour at $8,700 is right around 25 hours, if my math is right. I try to do it in my head really fast, but I think that's about right. 25 hours, and there's still nothing filed, and they still cannot find out easily where he is located. That should send a worry through these people who are pushing all of this forward, that maybe they aren't getting the best help. You would think, right?
For me, I would think so. If a lawyer has worked for 25 hours over 17 weeks, no, not 17 weeks. She found out June 11th. So I'm willing to say at least a solid 12 weeks at this point. For 12 weeks, a lawyer has been working. No, well, number one, if that math is right, she's worked 25 hours over 12 weeks. That's
On
like
this case.
2 hours a week?
Yeah, and let's
still
think of
nothing
it this
filed.
way.
And still
And
nothing filed, nothing moving
She-
forward.
She was supposedly retained around between the 12th and the 15th. Let's just say that's when supposedly she was supposed to have sent a money order and retained this attorney.
And that's
Between
July, correct?
July, yep. So now we are at September 12th today. Today is September 12th. So we are 8 weeks. 8 weeks from that date.
Yeah, tomorrow's 9 weeks from the 12th.
So that's
I'm
right
curious,
around
why
3
has there
hours a
been
week.
no
Say it again,
Sorry.
Tessa.
I'm curious why there's been no fundraising for Letitia to make an appearance in court. I mean, if this has been filed and all these things are happening, but we can't see it because it's confidential, whatever, then I mean, she should have at least made trips
But
to Arizona for appearances in court, because you cannot ask for guardianship and conservatorship and not be present in court.
hold on. That brings up a question right there that you just segued into. But we've seen this text message from Letitia to Drake, the last one from July 22nd. We just saw that the other day. And in that text message, it says that she is asking Dre, or basically kind of forewarning her that she will be coming back to Arizona at some point in time. So if there was court paperwork, wouldn't she have a confirmed date already on file of when she's returning?
Yeah, I'm going to
Absolutely.
read it just for the record because I don't want people to say you're paraphrasing. So it says, "Good morning, Drea. I'm leaving the hospital now so I can hit the road back to Savannah. Thank you so much for allowing me to see my son. The promise I made, I will never tell anyone his location, and I pray we can stay in touch. Give the babies a kiss from me. I'll contact you as soon as I can get another week off from work so I can come back again. Thank you and God bless." Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji.
I'll contact you when I can get time off work. But if there was court, even if it's months out, right, she would have a date already.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And my other question is her next text message, which currently we believe, we don't have proof, but we believe that date for that second text message was August 1st right now. And that text message says, "Good morning. How is Marvon doing? I'm coming back soon. Just wanted to give you an advance notice. I'll let you know exactly what date when I book my flight. Take care and give the babies a hug." So for me, I guess it just brings up so many questions when you find out what's truly being said behind the scenes. Because when you hear Letitia on July 26th saying she's already sent Drea 2 messages with no response, and then you see Dre and Letitia's text message, which she sent her 1 message when she was leaving. And there is no second message that she sent that had no response. That's number 1. Number 2, you sent her a message on July 22nd. Okay. You don't even ask how Marvon is doing until August 1st, potentially. I mean, for somebody who is trying to broker peace, broker forgiveness, broker to, just trying to go along to get along so you can see your kid, I really struggle to understand that. Why would you wait 2.5 weeks? Is that, well, let me not say that. Is that 2.5 weeks? I'm pretty sure it is, but maybe I could be wrong. Let me just double check the calendar. So July 22nd. Oh no, excuse me, apologies. 1 week and 3 days. So 10 days you waited to send your second text message. Like I'm sorry, I just call bullshit. People keep saying, "Oh my god, all these channels are attacking the family and this is can't you imagine what they're going through?" I absolutely can imagine because I'm a mother. And I know what I would do if my kid was in this circumstance for sure. However, I can also imagine the other side of things if I was a wife and I was a mother of my children. I can imagine that side too. Like, there's not just one person hurting in this situation, there are multiple people hurting in this situation. And a lot of them, some of it is self inflicted.
Amen to that.
Lynette has
Amen.
said she said on live multiple times, the video that you see for, Vaughn's father and all that stuff when she's trying to get him not be able to see them, they say themselves, we believe that she thought that I was Letitia. Okay, fine. She says, Dre texted me and apologized for her, for what she had done after that, and I didn't text message her anymore. Right? Now, mind you, when did they go to see him? That was what, late June, mid June, something like that?
18th, June 18th through about the 26th.
Okay. So now, when you make a phone call to them, number one, on live, that is not a phone call that should have been made on a live recording.
No, especially it's the
Behind the
first time.
scenes, and they only called on live because so many people in the comments were like Drake kept saying. She said in all of her videos, if anybody had a chance to see him, it would be the father because they had reconnected since I believe it was February, and they had been making a relationship. He is the one who had a chance. People in the chat are like, well, try and call her, try and call her. No, you can't try and call 2.5 months later, almost, no, June, let's say third week of June to that was the third week of August. So 2 months later,
Yeah.
absolutely. My response would be, you spent the last 2 months trashing, bashing, and stalking my family.
But
And
hold
you have
on here too.
encouraged. Now, we already know there's some creators out there that are like, not me. I didn't do it. I didn't do anything.
Oh yeah.
People went to the house because it's public information.
Right.
Here's the thing though, when those same people sent you videos looking over a fence, sent you videos looking at the cars and what SUVs were there. When there were videos posted by people playing the radio station in Tucson saying that they were going to be across the street from Dre's mother's house at the park, it was no longer, I didn't do anything. Yes, you did. And trust and believe, maybe many people are like, oh, it's okay that that me and my kids are hiding out of fear right now because the internet is freaking crazy. You may be sane. And I'm sorry to tell you, but the internet has some really fucked up crazy people that tend to and want to go real life on things. And I'm not saying that anybody said go real life. But when you put public information out there, let the people do their research on their own. If it's a public address that you can Google on Google Earth, wonderful. Let them go do the research to try and find it, because I bet you the people who want to go real life, you know what they don't do? They don't do their own research. They're waiting for somebody stupid enough to put the information out there to go get kids. And then a family sat behind this and thought, oh wow, yeah, this sounds great, since somebody went to their house and looked over a fence, looked at their cars. This sounds amazing. This is really going to work out for us to be able to see our kid. What the fuck?
They weren't thinking. They haven't thought rationally all along. And here's the other thing. They keep saying if somebody would have approached Letitia calm, collective, and kindly, she would have just showed this up. Bullshit.
No.
Bullshit.
No.
Because she was given that opportunity. I was respectful to her. And I know there was many other people that tried to broker peace.
Yes. Yes. And I can also say that's been done on the other side of things too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There are people out here who are trying to broker peace. Unfortunately, when the advocate slash when the spokesperson for the family changes every other month, maybe sometimes every other week, and
Right.
you align yourself with people who have a personal vendetta against this person to start with.
And don't say that that's true either, because that has been proved 1,001 times
Oh,
by their
100%.
own
We
words.
have name after name after name, and I can show you anything you need to show. I would not state anything that is
Yep.
not a fact. One of the biggest things that I would say is if you're listening to this video at this point, no matter what your opinion is, no matter where you lie on things, no matter what you believe, what you don't believe, no matter what facts or feelings you're going with, I would really urge you to kind of take these things, these next, I think there's 4 things, really take them to heart and do them. So first and foremost, I think it's amazing that everybody pray for Vaughn and his entire family, because truly, if you don't pray, that's okay. I'm not trying to make this, about churchy stuff, but if you don't pray, send out positive vibes. If you don't do positive vibes, ground yourself. If you don't ground yourself, then, I don't know what you can
Light a
do. Say
candle.
some positive words. Light a candle. Do something that would
Write a
actually
positive note.
be something
And with that, Bluntessa, Fucktessa, and Cuntessa, over and out. Have a wonderful day.